Hello everyone and welcome to the Retake cast. Today I am here with my co-host Kaz and also with our guest Hollow FPS, the owner of World Class Aim Group and the creator
What's
of World
up?
Class Aim. But yeah, how you doing?
I'm chilling.
Welcome,
well.
welcome, bro. It's good to have you. Today we're gonna be going into some interesting topics such as the aimassist versus mouse and keyboard debate, which everyone loves to hear about. But yeah, we're obviously just going to get started with introducing Hollow and then kind of who we are and why we're doing this podcast again. But yeah. So one thing I did want to know is because I've been watching your streams and stuff for a while. But you say you came from Overwatch and stuff. But I just want to kind of know your whole background in gaming. If you ever played console and all that, or beforehand, and how you just kind of got in love with the passion for gaming and wanting to pursue it more.
So my history with gaming is really long, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail because a lot of it's not relevant to FPS gaming. But I played Quake and World of Warcraft in my dad's lap when I was a kid, and then I moved to my first ever PC where I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and which is an old RPG game. I really like that. And then I ended up getting an Xbox, and I played Halo a bunch, just every Halo that I could. I mostly spent time on Halo 3, because that was just one of the best FPS games ever made. And then after that, I played a bunch of miscellaneous games, and then I got into Minecraft, and then I got into Minecraft on my PC. And then I played Minecraft for a very long time. I played factions and PvP and practiced close range tracking and spam clicking and all that. And then after that, I played Overwatch had come out in middle of 2016, and I played Minecraft and Overwatch kind of hand in hand with each other up until the end of 2016, towards then. And then I just kind of left Minecraft for Overwatch. And as soon as I started playing Overwatch, the equivalent of full time, I peaked top 10 for a little bit. It was 4.7 on Soldier, but I didn't keep it. I got really lucky with the games that I played. It all just seemed a little too easy. But that's because I queued at weird times and everything. But I still kept 4.4, 4.5, and then I was just grinding Overwatch for a year and a half after that, before my head injury in May of 2018. And then I went back to Minecraft after my head injury. Still played Overwatch here and there, still tried, but it was just really depressing because I had a really bad untreated concussion. I actually had to staple my head back together, not myself, but I had to go to the ER, and I just wasn't taken care of correctly. And still recovering from that, still getting everything back. I mean, I've definitely done a good job so far, but there's always that lingering I could always be this much better. But I don't let it get to me too much. I'm at peace with it. But I kind of played a mix of Minecraft and Overwatch again, into the end of 2018 until I'm all right, I want to go to college. So I started going to college that the spring semester of 2019. But Apex had come out, and I ended up playing so much Apex that I got such bad grades in college. I just dropped out after that because I wanted to make it work, right? I was actually trying to move on with my life, start going to college, right? Getting my degree. I wanted to be a teacher, a professor. But Apex had come out shortly after my classes started, in February, and I played day one. I'm oh my god, I want to make this game work. It feels so good. So I committed to playing it and grinding it out. And I ended up starting to stream and make content around it in December of 2019. And I haven't stopped since.
I remember, so the first time I saw you was just in my Twitter feed. I don't really remember who put it in my Twitter feed, but it was back when you had the black and gold profile picture with the
shout out Ronan for that logo. That was a good one.
The OG. But yeah, I think I don't remember which World Class Aim I saw. It was either the first one of the first three. But I was pretty impressed, especially because I didn't really follow too much content relating to Apex except for my friends and obviously all the big names in there, and but yeah, like especially as a controller player, a lot of people don't find like I don't know, most controller players don't care too much about like tracking and all that stuff, but like I remember watching World Class Aim and just like seeing how different it was compared to a lot of other content. Like it definitely pioneered like montages on Twitter just in general, just with like that fast paced like look with like all the tracking, and like it just all went like well together, you know what I mean? I remember
I take credit
really
for
amazed.
how that all looks today, because it was definitely new at the time. It's not like anybody, it's not like there wasn't anybody doing it, but nobody quite did it in the way that we did. And
It was,
like,
yeah, it was very unique, different from what you usually saw when you like saw like a Apex montage, quote unquote, on like Twitter. You know what I mean? Like most stuff was just not like that, not stylized like that at all. It was very like it drew the eye in, that's for sure.
You want to know something really interesting about World Class Aim that I've never spoken about publicly before?
Yeah, for sure.
I regret ever making that series. I wish I never did it.
Why?
And here's why. So, Rain and I obviously made like the best montage series. Like, you know, there's so much hype around it. Like, I consider it to be the best. Like, there's just not very many things that kind of compared to it, especially like the amount of traction that the first like 5 or it was really the first 5. Like the amount of likes and retweets and everything that we got, we broke in, we tapped in the Japanese audience, everything. It was insane. But it really forced me to be a Twitter content creator. Like that was the only thing that I ever focused on. And I got really complacent, and I got really, you know, I had gotten partnered on Twitch shortly after I posted the first one. And I honestly wish that I did something like that later, because, you know, that's what I initially became known and relevant for in the community.
Yeah.
And if I don't like do that every once in a while, you know, I'm just like, people don't want to watch like everything else, even though I know that I'm very capable of making other content that's really good. I wish that I would have just blown up for something else other than montages, especially because now it all looks the same. Like, no offense to anybody in particular, like I've actually helped people, or at least tried my best to help people make montages, but everything is so boring, it's so stale, it all looks the same. There's no vision or talent or anything. It's just like, oh, I can shoot things really good, let me just throw it together over some music, and boom, you know.
Yeah.
And so I wish that I, like, even though I'm definitely really grateful for all the attention that I received and everything, I wish that I would not have blown up from montage. I wish that I would have blown up off of like YouTube videos, or, you know, from a rank grind or something other than that. But again, like, you know, I'm still really happy with where I'm at right now. I wouldn't be where I'm at now without those montages, but, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? Like I'm gonna make it work regardless. I'm gonna, you know, have my second wave. It's just like,
of course. Yeah, I
definitely made a lot of mistakes in the process of only focusing on non-monetizable montages that I had to delete. I had to delete like 2 million views worth of content because of DMCA.
Bro, yeah. That was like the second Twitter DMCA wave, as far as I know, too, and that's pretty crazy. I completely get that though, because like a little bit of like backstory on me. Before I started doing like Apex content, I was like illustrator, right? And that's like my whole thing for like overtime. Like my peak, quote unquote, of my Twitter career would be like making like Faceway's like illustrated profile picture, and like that's what everybody knew me for. It was like, oh, he's like the guy that drew that one Fortnite guy's profile picture, and then like that's all I was known for. And then I switched it, like as soon as I switched to Apex, all of my like my supporters for all that stuff, like if I wasn't making something like Fortnite related whatsoever, like it wouldn't like give me any traction at like any of my other outlets. So I kind of wanted to like rebrand myself, I guess, in a sense. But it's like I kind of can understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, it's more of like a I wish, like, I'm glad with the end result, but I wish that the path that I took there was a little different.
Yeah, of course.
Can I ask what made you, like, why'd you name it World Class? Like, what made you think of World Class?
Dude, I can't even remember. I just wanted an adjective that I could, like, my goal was to look for an adjective that was brandable, right? So I could say about myself, like, after, you know, making content surrounding it, just from the perspective of like search engine optimization and like branding or whatever.
Right.
I really wanted to do something with regards to like just tying my name to a particular thing, you know.
It definitely Sorry, it definitely like targets the audience you're looking for. Kind of like
Right.
that whole aiming and stuff, and then like the world class also sounds really nice. That goes along with it. So when people see that, they're like not expecting just a normal Apex montage. They kind of know like what they're getting into beforehand, I guess.
I also just like thought it sounded cool. World class aim, you know, like I was just imagining it in, like the Mortal Kombat like Quake style voice where like
That's so
you know, I still want to get some voice actor to do like world class aim. Like it just
That would
sounds
be
good,
amazing,
right?
yeah.
Like I mean, as much as thought as I could, like as I did put into it after, you know, and as much as I like justified using it after, like the initial, there wasn't too much initial thought. It was more of just like that. This sounds cool. Let's fucking run with it, you know?
Right.
Because it was actually just initial. It was initially just like just a Twitter post. Because I had actually made montages, right? Like I actually posted them on Twitter. I had to delete all those for DMCA as well. But you know, I did like something like Black Mask by Pop Smoke, and then I did like a bunch of other stuff with like the with just other songs that sounded good. Like I had the baby era where I only made montages to baby songs and like
oh man,
you know. But I was like, I liked doing it. You know, I was getting some form of attention.
Right.
And then we found what worked, and we did it over and over and over again. That's how to create content and how to be successful doing it. Is you just find one thing that works, and then you just do it over and over.
That's basically it. Because I mean, like, doing new stuff is like good, but like, you know, like you're ultimately building like a demographic that knows what they're like getting into every time they click on that notification bell. You know what I mean? Like they know what they can expect. And then like usually when like you do something a little bit too different, it's like it's not going to get as much traction. So like it definitely worked out well. When I was kind of first introduced like to your like community and stuff, and like I went to the Discord, like everyone kind of knew you as like the aim trainer guy, right? And so like if you wanted help with like aim training, like you went to Hollow. And so I remember like literally going into, before I started making content and like I joined your Discord, I was like, yo guys, what's like, how do I switch to mouse and keyboard, guys? And then everyone literally just like replied, don't, because that's like when like all the aim assist, like the aim assist stuff was kind of starting back up again. It was pretty funny. But like your brand was definitely kind of revolving around that, like I'd say like especially like when you go into a Hollow stream, it's very like informal. Like you're always learning something there. Because like most people, like there's kind of like different forms of content. Like you have XQC kind of just like being all over the place and kind of funny. You got like pro players and stuff, and then you're in this in between where like you're like your performance is of that of a pro player for sure, but like you're kind of spending time talking to your chat and helping your chat like understand what you're doing, whether it's like walk plays, like kind of explaining like the motions you're going through while playing the game, or just like helping people in general with like video settings and like what's the best way to aim train, and then like, you know, the 9,000 people a day that like ask for your sense. But it's like a different style. Bro,
Don't remind me. It's like, you know how like Chick-fil-A workers probably go to sleep at night and they're like, my pleasure. Oh wait, I'm not at work.
yeah,
That's how I feel with sense. It's like,
you're constantly
what's your sense?
just
Exclamation point sense. Exclamation point sense. Exclamation point sense. Exclamation point sense.
So crazy how like the amount of people like sense is different for literally everybody. I don't understand how people don't understand that.
yeah.
I just have to be the one to tell them. I'll be real with you.
It's like, I don't know. It's so weird because it happens. I see that in like so many other people's. I'm mainly like interested in Valorant streams, but like people are always like asking like, yo, what sense do you play? What DPI?
Right.
And it's like, dude, it's different for everybody. You gotta figure it out. You gotta go to the rage and shoot some
yeah, you gotta get that grind up. I don't know. I've kind of like gotten my experience of that recently with like a lot of people on TikTok asking for my sensitivity, and it got so annoying that I was like, all right, I'm literally just gonna make a video where I have like a command in my chat for it and whatever, and then people can use it.
Some people also ask. I thought people asked for like your color settings too for some reason.
Oh yeah, no, they asked for all my settings. I don't know why.
Anything and everything that you can customize about the game, you will get asked about.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like people think like, oh, if I use this person's settings, I'm gonna be as good as them, or like this is like the secret sauce to like becoming like a good player. When and like in reality, it has nothing to do with that. But I see it like almost like in every player's chat and stream. And then do you still have the counter on your command where it like shows how many times chat has asked for that?
Yeah, let me check that real quick.
I think like bro, it is so ridiculous because every time I show up to a stream, I at least see it like 20 times in chat.
3,629 times
Oh
so
my
far.
God.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's just when you set up the command. That's not even like beforehand either, dude. That's so insane.
Do you remember when you set up the command?
Like May.
God.
May or June.
That's so insane.
So I guess going back, because we were talking about like controllers for a little bit, aim assist. Like every couple months, I always see like a new Twitter video about somebody explaining why aim assist is like super broken, or why aim assist is like not, basically.
It needs to be buffed. It needs to be put to 0.8. All controller players should be able to fly around the map. I think it's just like widely agreed upon, but. Yeah,
Controller players should just automatically have System 32 deleted on their opponent's computers by pressing left trigger. Yeah, I've heard all of
exactly. Yeah, of course. But like, I feel like, especially in the Apex community, like it's just a debate that's like always there, like twice a week, and like especially now, like more so now. We kind of talked about it a little bit when like you were playing with subs, but I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on it are a little bit more. It comes up like in your stream quite a bit too, but it's like it's such an interesting topic to me because like I kind of get to see both sides, because like I'm a little bit more in like the M&K more so than like controller community now. At least I consider myself that. But I'm like also like viewing everything from like the point of like a controller player. But I'm always curious to see what other people think. But yeah, I think like with a lot of what I see is like a lot of people just hate console aim assist, right? Like that's like one of the big things that like are like getting on people's nerves right now. And I completely like can kind of like agree with like how broken it is. Like it feels like a shot back in time. Yeah.
Is it different between console and like when you're using controller on a PC?
I should
It's
probably
50% stronger on console. So aim assist in Apex operates on a scale from 0.0 to 1.0, right? Or 0 to 1.0 in increments of 0.1, right? So on PC, aim assist is tuned to 0.4 on this scale. And on console, it's 0.6.
You're getting more aim assist on console, and I'm assuming their reasoning for this is kind of like the lack of frames that you usually get on console, which is like it's capped at 60. But if you're playing on like older gen, you're gonna be getting like 30 to 45. But that's kind of their reasoning. They've since added once a lot of people were like finally complaining about it and like saying like, yo, it's kind of broken. They added an option where you can like opt to turn on PC aim assist on console. But it's not like a built-in feature where you're forced to. It's like you still have the 0.6 in PC lobbies, which is still kind of crazy.
Let's just say that you have a set of 10 competitors in this marathon, right? So 5 of these competitors have 2 fully functioning legs, and the other 5 competitors just don't have legs. They're just not there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in order to try to bridge the gap between the competitors with legs and the competitors without legs, the competitors without legs get a motor scooter, right? This motor scooter does not go very, very fast, but it sure does move at the same speed very consistently without them having to get worn out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Kind of how I look at aim assist. This is obviously not directly comparing controller players to people who don't have legs. It's just to say that is kind of the way that it kind of illustrates the relationship between the 2 input methods, where, with mouse and keyboard, you can run faster, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have 2 fully functioning legs, you can run faster. But it's very difficult to run for long periods of time without properly conditioning yourself.
Yeah.
And without properly training, and without eating right, and without exercising all the time. Whereas, what does it take to operate the motor scooter?
Right, exactly.
Not as much as that, right? What purpose does that analogy serve? Well, it serves the purpose of illustrating just like the relationship between mouse and keyboard and controller, and how aim assist comes into play. And it also perfectly shows why mixed inputs are not fair. It's just not fair. It is not a fair or level playing field. Everybody in a PC lobby should be on mouse and keyboard, and everybody in a console lobby should be on controller. And if the people in the PC lobby want to intentionally take away their legs by playing on a controller, then they don't get the motor scooter to overcompensate for it.
Okay.
Because that's just a fair environment. That's how it should be from the perspective of competitive integrity and fairness, right? Is it ever going to be like that? No. Is it only going to get worse? Yes. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of my view on it. From my personal perspective, by the way, if I die to a controller player, I don't really care. I played three ALGS qualifiers over the past few weekends, or the past 3 weekends, and I've gone up against top tier controller players. Not a single fight that we've lost to controller players was because of the fact that the aim assist was there. It was literally just because we were worse, right?
Okay.
Part of that has to do with the fact that we are playing Ability Legends. The other part of that has to do with the fact that it just doesn't matter as much as people are making it out. Am I really unhappy when a level 13 console lifeline one clips me with an R9 because of the fact that the aim assist is just that strong, even if I'm like strafing left and right in front of her and perfectly trying to compensate for my strafe, whatever. Like it just doesn't, like, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, the only thing that I can do about it is just becoming better. All I have to do is just get better. Like that's really it. There's no other way to really illustrate it. Like I can very easily unpack exactly how aim assist is unfair, exactly how or exactly what it overcompensates for, and some of the consequences of it that people aren't even necessarily aware of, and which I'm about to do, and I can unpack it in this kind of an isolated environment. But when I turn on the game, and when I put my arm sleeve on, and when I grab my mouse, and when I put my hand on my keyboard, I don't think about that. I just am like, I need to have better aim than enemy. I do more damage to enemy than enemy does to me. I win fight. It's just that's the perspective that I have it. But before I kind of like stop talking for just a second, I'll kind of go over like some of the things that people don't really realize about aim assist, and I want your opinion on this.
Okay.
So with regards to things that aim assist overcompensates for, not only does it overcompensate for the fact that you are on a set of analog thumbsticks, right? And that making the kinds of the motions are more difficult or whatever. It also helps you aim through visual clutter. It also allows you, as long as you have a rough understanding of where the opponent is and kind of how they're moving, you can leverage the aim assist in such a way so as to absolutely fry people through visual clutter, right? In addition to that, you also have aim punch. So aim punch is whenever you take damage on flesh in this game, your screen will shake, and you have like some form of it's a very soft crowd control, right? Or very soft CC. Aim assist overcompensates for that. You also have horizontal recoil. Aim assist also overcompensates for that by helping center your but it kind of almost mitigates it, not entirely. Obviously at range the horizontal recoil is really, really tough, but moments where the horizontal recoil matters in like a mid-range duel, there's times where I've literally hit the exact, I would have hit the exact same amount of shots as a controller player, but I don't compensate for the recoil well enough. Or my screen gets thrown off by screen shake by aim punch, and they win the fight because the algorithm helps them aim through that. Right? I want to know what your thoughts on all that are, and just kind of like from the perspective of someone who actually does play the input method, what you think about that.
As a controller player on PC, the worst of the worst, right? I completely agree with everything you just said, for sure. So visual clutter, the only times you don't have aim assist with visual clutter, I don't even know if you'd consider this necessarily. I mean it's an ability, but like caustic gas in Bangalore smoke, that's like the only time you're not getting aim assist. But when you're getting shot through snow and all that, and there's all that crazy crap on your screen and you can't see, you do get aim assist through that, as long as you're generally looking at your target. As long as you're in the direction of your target, your crosshair is close to your target, it's going to stick. You can see plenty of this. I probably have a clip of it too, but it's it's just what aim assist does. It doesn't really compensate for that necessarily. I think it'd be great if they changed it to that. But with visual clutter, you literally just it does lock on as long as you're sitting there, and it also has to do with your power optic settings and all that, because the higher your sense, the lower your aim assist can be, especially with what's it called, hip fire, your kind of your look sensitivity where you're not ADSing and all that. That also has a big play on how your hip fire aim assist works, which is a big determining factor close range. And then with horizontal, the aim punching and all that, I literally I would agree with that too. There's not many times where I'm in a fight and then I take that damage or whatever, and then my screen shutters and I have to recorrect my aim. Usually it sticks on because the aim assist is compensating for what I'm aiming at. Apex has a really interesting system for their aim assist. It's kind of been the same since Titanfall 2, and I don't remember Titanfall 1 enough to really compare to that. but it's essentially just it's going to be slowing down and then redirecting where you're looking closer to your opponent for you, depending on your sensitivity. The lower your sensitivity, the more it's going to overcompensate. The higher sensitivity, the lower that's going to be, as far as I know. But it definitely has like a big, like there's like it's minimal. Not a lot of people realize it, but it does have like a big influence on those fights that you're taking, especially like, you know, let's say you're like your World's Edge or whatever, you're outside of epicenter, you're fighting in the snow, downhill, uphill, bunch of craps going around, someone spraying a Diva at you, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be able to see anything, but it doesn't really matter if you're on a controller and you generally like know where your target is, because you're going to hit them. It's gonna compensate for you. So I can definitely agree with that. I don't really have any like argument or anything saying, well, no, that's wrong or whatever. I'm
right.
Generally, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily, like, when I say like it overcompensates, it's like I don't mean that you're gonna aim perfectly through stuff, but if you know how to leverage it, then it definitely makes a difference, and it does definitely, you know, give you some form of an edge in those kinds of fights.
Yeah, it definitely, like, straight up, it gives you an advantage for sure in that type of scenario. Yeah, I like completely agree. Literally all, like, at least my experience, all you have to do is as long as you're generally looking at that target, like, you know where they are through that, and you ADS on them, and like you know how to control like your recoil, you'll hit them. Like, it kind of just comes down to like how well you know that system works, or how used to it you are. And again, obviously your sensitivity and stuff, but as long as you're like a controller player who knows how it works, you're gonna hit that target. And it's definitely an advantage that like controller players will have over mouse and keyboard players. Like, I completely agree with that. I'm generally curious what you think about this, Kaz, because like it's like an interesting debate, and like you don't really see it in like the Valorant side, because, you know, Valorant did what, you know, not a lot of games
they're
do.
actually okay. There's one guy on Valorant who uses a controller.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't have aim assist, right?
Yeah, and all he does is use the shotgun. But I guess for me, there was one time, I think you were watching, because we were like just showing in Cord. I normally play Apex on keyboard and mouse, but I decided like randomly one day I'm gonna use a controller. My general synopsis of it was just like, I don't know why, but there were some moments where I just like, it felt kind of sticky in a sense. It's like I could feel like the aim assist kind of like almost working against me, to be honest. But it's like I kind of just let it happen because, you know, like I'm doing so much damage to this target anyway. You know, so it's like, why should I stop?
Yeah.
There was a moment where I like saw somebody, I think I saw a Bangalore like try and like run inside a smoke. Basically, I started spraying at him like through before he like entered the smoke, and as he was like going inside the smoke, I like continued to hit every single shot, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening? It just like locked basically, and I was like, oh my God, just got so one clip through the smoke, like what the fuck? So for me, I don't really disagree either. I guess like for me, it was kind of weird because, again, like I play keyboard and mouse. It's weird to kind of, because I could just almost feel it like kind of working against me, but it's like it's working against me because it's trying to tell me like, you know, this is like, it's got like Hollow said, it's trying to overcompensate basically. And that was like kind of weird to feel for the first time. I used to play controller a lot because I used to play Destiny 1, but aim assist in that game is like completely different.
Yeah, it's
that game was entirely
different system. Yeah.
Everyone else is on controller, but yeah, I don't know. For my general synopsis, it's just like I guess like in certain situations, because there were times where I like completely fucking whiffed, but there were certain situations where I just like I don't know, just like completely locked onto it, dude. And again, it kind of felt like aimbot, but not really.
And it's like you're a keyboard and mouse player, right? And you're switching to that input that like kind of helps you with your aim, whereas you're used to having to aim for yourself, right? Like completely 100%. You are the determining factor if you're hitting that target or not. And so when you played, you're still frying people on controller on an input that you're not used to, right? Whereas if it was the other way around, like I've like 1v1 friends and stuff like on mouse and keyboard, including you, I'm pretty sure. And it's like horrible, right? Because like I don't know that much about mouse and keyboard and all that, right?
You don't have like anything. You don't have the system helping you or the algorithm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So like I had to like get used to like compensating for myself rather than a system doing it for me, and it's just way different. I think I tweeted this out and I've mentioned this to Hollow before. It's easier to here. Let me pull up the tweet so I can word this correctly because I end up wording this wrong every single time. But
I was just gonna say it is for both. Like no matter if you're going from console or not console, controller to keyboard and mouse, or keyboard and mouse to controller. All it's really gonna take to switch to one another is just time and dedication. A lot of people,
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people, you probably get asked this a lot, Hollow. Like I'm switching over to keyboard and mouse from controller. Like, what are the best ways to get better? And you probably tell them, just play or like do aim labs or something. And then, but some people like kind of overcomplicate it, think you need to do like a million other type of stuff.
I mean, like with regards to how do I put it? With regards to the how like mouse and keyboard works fundamentally as opposed to controller, like there's so many more things that you have to think about, right? I always tell people to not really worry about a lot of this stuff and to just focus on grinding and focusing on not like letting their setup be an excuse for bad performance or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But with regard, like whenever you're playing on a controller, you buy, like, here's how this works. You buy a controller. You hold the controller.
Yeah.
You use the controller.
I like where it's going. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that is it. That is true.
With a mouse and a
ALGS
keyboard,
Red champion.
you've literally. I mean, obviously, there's some. I mean, hey, look at Rambo. I mean, what? Anyway, so you've got like, there's obviously other things that you have to consider. Like, do I want paddles? Do I want like, do I want this? Do I want that? Do I want that? Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously room to think about things. Like, do I want Xbox 360 or sorry, Xbox or PS4, whatever. But
Right.
whenever you're playing on mouse and keyboard, what kind of mouse do I want? Do I want a lightweight mouse? Do I want a heavy mouse? Do I want an ergonomic mouse? Do I want an ambidextrous mouse? Do I want a wired mouse? Do I want a wireless mouse? How is the scroll on this? How are the clicks on it? How is the quality? Does it have any rattle? Oh, okay. Do I need to buy aftermarket mouse feet? What's the sensor like on the mouse? Okay. Do I need to get a mouse bungee if the mouse is wired or wireless? Which bungee do I get? Oh, I need a mouse pad to use. Which mouse pad should I get? Do I want a fast one? Do I want a slow one? Do I want a hard pad? Do I want a soft pad? Does it have to be coated? Do I need to not have a coating? Oh, wait, I gotta get a keyboard. What switches do I want? How big do I want the keyboard to be? Does it have good keycaps that are gonna last me a long time? Oh, wait, I need to get a monitor. What refresh rate on monitor do I want to have? What kind of panel do I want to get? What kind, like, how big do I want the monitor to be? What resolution do I want the monitor to be? And then just going into like console versus PC, you've got like, if you buy the console, you plug it in, you play, download the game and play it. Whereas with a PC, what CPU do I want to get? What RAM do I want to get? What cooler do I want to get? What motherboard do I want to get? What storage do I want to get? What graphics card do I want to get? What power supply do I want to get? What case do I want to get? What cables do I need? What blah, 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 blah. It's just like, it's so much more nuanced and complicated. And it definitely feels harder to get used to. It's not as accessible, right? And so
that people get consoles because of just ease of access, basically. Like you said, plug and play, basically.
Yeah, they're cheap. They're plug and play. You don't have to. There's not a lot of brain power that really goes into like thinking like how what you want, right? Like less customization. I kind of like compare it almost to like Apple products, right? Like whereas like with an Apple, like you're not customizing your if you get a Mac, right? But you know what it's gonna do and it does it well, and like you know what it's going to do, and there's not much thought that has to go into it afterwards. And that's why people buy Apple products a lot of the time, right? It's kind of similar in that sense with like console versus like PC and all that. It's plug and play, and it's a lot like simpler. It doesn't take as much time to just like figure out what you need. Where what like at the sake of how do I explain this? Like less customization kind of leads to like less.
You still get the same level of functionality, but you don't have to worry about. But the accessibility is so much more there. Controller is so much more simple. Console is so much more simple. It's plug and play for the most part. Whereas you actually have to kind of fine tune your loadout. It just kind of is what it is. But at the end of the day, like kind of harping on that, Mouse and keyboard is actually infinitely more sensitive to the things aim assist is trying to compensate for than controller is. Like if you really think about it,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Because like
so
I don't
whenever
understand that.
aim assist is there to compensate, like let's look at the relationship between console and PC aim assist again.
Yeah,
Console aim assist is 50% stronger than PC, and that's the justification for that is usually like, oh, there's more input lag, there's less frames, whatever, you know.
right.
A controller is, it's not like, when I say this, I'm not saying that controller is immune to input lag, but what I am saying is that controller is going to be affected much less by input lag than mouse and keyboard ever will be. Because you have a mouse that is infinitely more sensitive to how you move it than a joystick ever could possibly dream of being.
Right.
And if you have anything that is getting in the way of the motions that you're making with the mouse, like if there's anything in between that and the game, it's going to negatively affect your gameplay so much more than you know, a disparity or something in between an analog input with a thumbstick and you know, the actual game. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, the justification for console aim assist being stronger than PC is actually just completely invalid, and there's no reason why it should be any different, because there are people playing on PCs that get less frames than console that are on mouse and keyboard that don't get an algorithm handed to them to help them out. Regardless of the fact that they're on the superior input method, it's still, they're still being held back more by the input lag and the lack of frames than the console players ever will be, right? Because if you look at the kinds of motions that you can make on a joystick, think of how easy it is to track someone just by like think of how, like, you know, you move your joystick left or right to a certain degree based on your sensitivity to make the motion of tracking someone. Whereas with a mouse, you have to move the mouse at the same speed that the target is moving, proportionate to the sensitivity that you're playing on. You have to make sure that you have enough control over your mouse so as to not be shaking it all the time. You know, you have to make sure that, like, I mean, you have to make sure that, like, your frame rate is consistent and stable, because your mouse input is going to feel drastically different on 60 FPS than it will on 20. And it's going to feel different on 60, like it's going to feel like the difference between controller input on 60 hertz and 144 hertz is way less than the difference between mouse input on from 60 hertz and 144 hertz. And that's obviously speculation. Like, I have yet to really experience that and you know, and myself, but that's just kind of a prediction and an assumption that I'm willing to make, where, you know, because the mouse is infinitely more sensitive to how you move it, it's also infinitely more sensitive to the things that aim assist is trying to overcompensate for.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Like, I played on like, I started playing Apex on console, right? I switched over like 2-3 seasons ago, and like, just from my perspective, not even playing mouse and keyboard, I could like confidently say that, like, if you were playing on like that of like an equivalent to like old generation Xbox, it's gonna be way more difficult than what you're usually used to, compared to like the controller input where you have that aim assist still like sort of backing you up. It's still a little bit more difficult, but like overall, it's not going to be as difficult as like a manually inputted, like no compensation whatsoever from the mouse and keyboard input.
100%. Like, I don't know, like that, you could arguably say that, like, that just I mean, sorry, you could, like, you know, argue that, you know, the whole idea of mouse and keyboard being much more sensitive to performance disparities, I guess, is like a good enough reason for aim assist to not exist in the first place. But then again, you know, there's other dimensions to the whole thing. I just don't think that there should be an extra level for console. It doesn't really make any sense at all.
I think like the overall, like, with just aim assist in general, like, if we're looking at it from that perspective, like, console aim assist should not be any different from PC. I think especially because the only time it really has an influence. Yeah, what's up?
I was just gonna say, saying that, do you mean like, if it shouldn't? Are you trying to say that we shouldn't controller shouldn't have aim assist in general, or
The
Well-
argument can be made for the idea of controller not having aim assist because of the fact that like aim assist is there to compensate for, you know, at least on console, the strength of the aim assist is there to compensate for like the lack of frames and you know the amount of input lag and everything. But because of the fact that mouse and keyboard is infinitely more sensitive to the things that the aim assist is trying to mitigate, the fact that like the argument can be made that it just doesn't need to be there to begin with, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the only length that I'll go there in that respect, the only place that I'll really go is to say like we do not need a separate level of console aim assist. Aim assist on PC is totally fine. I think it's okay. I've never lost a fight to a controller player, you know, and walked out of it saying, "Damn, if only I was just playing on the same input method as them, I would win." It's more of just I need to get better, and you know, it's perfectly fine for me to have lost that fight. And even though there's visual clutter, even though there's this, that, the other, whatever, I still think that it's okay, you know.
So I guess in a sense, keyboard and mouse basically just kind of has like a higher skill cap, basically.
Yes, it does have a lot higher of a skill cap.
And then when you add aim, like I guess like when you just have a keyboard and mouse and a controller, keyboard and mouse would just have a much higher skill cap, and then controller has like a really low one. But then when you add aim assist onto the controller, that's when it like it's supposed to, you know, make that skill gap more to lower that skill gap basically, like between the two. But there are like I guess your argument is that it wouldn't really matter in a sense. Is that I might be getting it wrong.
I'm not like I'm kind of going all over the place with what I'm saying. I'll really just kind of like sum it up here because it was just to make sure that we're all on the same page. There does not need to be a separate level for console aim assist because not only is the aim assist on console right now too strong, but the justification for it is just not valid.
Lackluster.
It can be proven to be stupid, right? Like the devs will say like aim assist on console is stronger because of the fact that console gets less frames and has more input lag, so as a result it needs more aim assist to keep up, when in reality most people playing on a PC have the same performance as people playing on a console, especially with the shortage of graphics cards and everything, and with how unoptimized people's operating systems are, and with how technologically illiterate people are. Like it's just natural that like there's just not as the disparity is not as big as people make it out to be,
Right.
but I'm just saying like the potential for the argument to be like there's just a potential argument to be made like, well, why does aim assist exist to begin with if controller if mouse and keyboard players suffer this much, I mean, whatever, like
No, yeah, I completely
ignore that part.
get
I'm just kind of going all over the place. I'm going off on a tangent. It doesn't really matter too much. It's more of just the console problem.
No,
right?
yeah. I completely agree with that. I mean, like, that's what we're here to talk about. Is kind of just not just aim assist and Apex and between console and PC, but just in a whole as well. So I completely like.
This is kind of off topic, but speaking of operating systems, did you guys know that Windows 11 just released today?
Fuck Windows 11. All my homies are on Windows Server 2019.
Apparently, it is actually pretty good. I don't know if you guys follow. There's this one like you know about like these Twitter like PC tech guys basically, but this guy like basically said that it does offer like a nice like FPS performance. So I don't know.
I'll believe it when I see it, bro. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm gonna wait for.
But I know that like when the beta came out, it did like fuck up like everybody's FPS, but now it's like the full version basically.
I mean, didn't Windows?
I don't know.
10 do
It
that
could
for a
like
while, too?
I have heard very little about it, but
Yeah.
from what I have heard, it's not been as good. It kind of just looks like we're marching more towards a Mac OS version of Windows, where like a lot of the customizability and the control that you have over things from an internal perspective is like just kind of taken away.
I don't know if it's like taken away or is it just making it just a lot fucking harder to find basically. Because like
I think they want it to look cleaner ultimately and just remove that, like make it.
I hopped on a call with my personal optimization guy and he was just he was throwing a fit about it.
Oh my god, that's crazy. I'd be pissed. Going back to the whole controller aim assist thing though, I was gonna say, like with what you were saying, Kaz, it's easier to be at a higher level on controller than it is to be at a lower level on mouse and keyboard, in my opinion. I think that's like complete.
But then who would be the better player then?
Well,
here's what I have to say about that because this is actually interesting. With a controller, it is much easier to pick up and to do the bare minimum of like being good, right?
Right,
It's
right.
much easier to like pick a controller up and to say like it's much easier to pick a controller up and one clip people. It's much easier to pick a controller up and you know, perform well in the game.
Right. Yeah.
But there is only so much that you can do,
Yeah,
right?
it still has its limits,
Like
right?
you can't do crazy zipline movement unless you're this freak in the call here. You know, you can't like, you know, target acquisition is exceptionally difficult unless you're someone like Panders.
Yeah.
Like people like that just kind of are going above and beyond, and like it really just is like the I don't know, it's just easier to do the bare minimum, whereas with
Right.
mouse and keyboard
Yeah.
it's much harder to do the bare minimum, but there's so much more that you can do. And but like is all like all of the stuff that is harder to do on controller that's not possible to do on controller doesn't really matter as much on like
No, it doesn't. Not at
the whole
all.
movement has not once saved me in any respect in competitive, except for like one tap strafe that I did against a guy with like really bad aim.
Yeah.
And like, you know, or like we did tap strafes off of a pad into someone and like it was a failed push. Like we, I mean, actually no, we did tap strafe and we won one fight off of a tap strafe, but we could have still played the fight differently in such a way so as to win,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
people really overblow and overemphasize the importance of things like zipline movement and tap
Those
strafing and
things
all
are,
that
like,
kind of stuff.
Really advanced, basically. And it's like, I guess like because it's a BR too, it's like, it's not like it's not needed, but it's like, it's not gonna help.
It's,
It's
not,
really
a,
not
it's this
needed,
game is not very
honestly.
mechanically deep. I'll be real with you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you put a controller player on Tracer, like the ability to, you know, perfectly recenter your crosshair on a target in a like after a blink, you know, like the ability to do that really quickly is exceptionally hard to do on controller.
Yeah.
Aiming
yeah.
at a Pharah midair is so hard to do on a controller, you know? Like you can't like take a controller player and put them in a game like Overwatch, even with aim assist, right? Try to put them in a game like Overwatch with aim assist and they still they'll still lose all the
Right.
time because of how much more mechanically deep the game is, versus with the Apex it's really just straight up gunplay, you know?
Yeah.
The movement in this game, it does not matter as much. Like the strafe speeds in this game are very slow
Yeah.
in comparison to you know, quite literally every other high time to kill game for the most part.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Like,
So that's why like you want to have a controller player on your team. That's why controller players do well. You know, they obviously still have to be good. Like you still have to learn how to aim. You still have to. It's not like it's easy for everyone to do.
game
Otherwise, everybody would be an
sense,
LGS.
There's so many other factors, but it's like for sure, just like at the base level, I feel it's definitely
I guess in a
easier
sense,
to
it's
get.
probably a lot harder for a controller player to do bad. Like your regular controller player, or just like your average pro controller player, it would be a lot harder for them to like do worse, basically, because they already kind of have like a layer of comfort with aim assist, kind of.
Yeah, I definitely like it kind of like depends, because especially at a competitive level there's so many more factors.
Yeah.
I'm talking mostly from like a casual perspective. Like if you take the casual controller player and the casual MNK player, you're gonna have the controller player winning most of the time, just because of that compensation. Because like, you know, average person that comes home from work plays on PC, mouse and keyboard, they're probably not gonna be doing as much or not any aim training at all, right? So their aim's gonna be shaky, they're gonna be playing 2i sense, all this stuff. Whereas a controller player doesn't have to worry about that as much, like, or like as much, usually not at all, but like. And especially with like movement stuff isn't gonna save you in higher levels most of the time. At least I feel like, but from what I've seen and stuff, like movement isn't the determining factor of this game. A lot of stuff like zipline jumping is like can be like useful at times, but it's more so kind of like flashy, along with like super gliding, all those like movement mechanics. Like they can be useful, but it's not gonna be like Hollow was saying, like the determining factor in a fight, right? It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, I would much rather have someone that is going to win a lot of their close range 1v1s, you know, rather than someone who can do crazy zipline movement, right?
100%, yeah.
Like it just, you have to really like weigh
It makes
everything out.
sense. Yeah, you need to. It's not like it's just different. Like here, I'm gonna put this tweet in the chat. You guys gotta look at that. But it's like movement's not the sole factor of this game. It isn't what that's gonna make you like be the best player in the world, right? It's literally it's there, but like you're saying, for the most part, it's gunplay and then like legend abilities. It's not like that big of a determining factor. That's why I was
like that particular clip that you sent me.
Mhm.
Like you have to like the movement in this game requires you to look away from your target to be able to execute it because it's source engine, whereas Overwatch movement is very instantaneous. Like with a Genji dash, like you know, you need to be able to like like you're doing damage while you're doing it, and you need like you're instantaneously recentering your crosshair onto your target, right? You know, even if they're like behind you. Tracer blink, you know, kind of the same thing, right?
Right.
Like, you know, even with something like Doomfist, like being able to like track people throughout the air and be able to like, you know, properly use your punches, like you're still able to do damage in conjunction with the movement abilities, whereas the movement abilities, like doing damage and using movement are very, very, very opposite principles for the most part, and you have to work really hard to bring them together.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Like using zipline movement and being able to kill people while doing it is very hard because you have to be able to look away from them half the time, most of the time actually, to be able to propel your momentum, you know. And in that time that you're looking away from them, you're not putting yourself in any position to do damage. And that's why arcs work, because you do the damage on impact and then you can look away and then it does more damage, right? If you stick them. So
exactly. I completely agree with that. It's kind of like, I'd say that's why movement content is so popular to a certain extent, is because controller players for the most part can't do that, or not to that extent. And then mouse keyboard players, not everyone's going to be spot on, lock on, you know what I mean? Like nobody's going to be flying through zip lines, hitting insane wingman headshots and crap like Hollow and Fade. Or you're not just, that just doesn't come naturally, you know what I mean? So from like a mouse keyboard player's perspective, that's very impressive. And then from a controller player, like the movement is super impressive, you know what I mean? It's like that's why it's popular, but like people don't understand to like the extent where it's like, no, that's not like the determining factor of most fights.
It looks good.
Yeah, exactly.
Like movement, like getting the reason why people react to it so well is because, you know, movement on mouse and keyboard encompasses everything that a controller is just not capable of doing.
Exactly.
Like, you know, oh my god, I wish that I could move my camera around as quickly as, you know, this, right?
Right.
You know, I wish that, you know, I like, there's just so much that is so much that's like that you're doing that the controller players can't do, that
100%.
they then ignore. Like, how practical is this? Like, how many zipline buildings are there in the game? There are a few in Skyhook, a couple in Fragment, and a couple in Lava City, and that's it. Where are the other zip lines on the other maps? Oh, they're giant, long, one-way zip lines that you're better off just playing Pathfinder, putting another zip line right next to it, and then just spamming your way up. Like, other than that, like, what about King's King? And okay, you've got a couple buildings in King's King. You got the buildings in Spotted Lakes, and then you have the buildings in Crash Site. That's on one corner of the map. Oh, you have the market zip lines? Those don't help at all. Like,
no,
you have like it really is just like, I mean, because the only meaningful movement in this game really is just zipline movement.
Yeah.
And then tab strafing with like Bloodhound or Octane Stem, but you know, that's about it.
Yeah. I think in newer terms, like with movement, super gliding also like a very flashy move, right? But again, it's like, how consistent is that, and like, is it viable, and like, you know, especially like from a competitive standpoint and stuff. Like, I can only think of a couple players off the top of my head that can consistently do this like every single time and actually apply it in fights. You know what I mean? Like, that's like another thing that it just kind of like proves, like, when you look at it from like a different perspective, it's just like movement isn't that big of a determining thing. It's more so for content. I'm not saying that it can't like not help. Like, you know, there's definitely times where you can be at higher level lobbies and like use it to your advantage, but for the most part, like it's not the determining factor whatsoever.
Right.
I remember just like back on when like World's Edge just like first came out. Like, I'm sure you saw like the Dizzy clip, right? When like zip hopping was like first introduced, right? That clip like blew everyone away, right? And like, I just remember everyone I knew was like trying it in the range, you know. Everyone wanted to be like that, and like it's cool, right? And it's like, it's something that not every player can do, and I think that's what makes it so interesting and entertaining for like, I guess, but like not even like input wise, just in general. But
when you decided to kind of like just drop college to, you know, focus on Apex full time, did your parents were just like full supportive of it? There was no like, they didn't care or whatever?
My parents were supportive of it because they knew how good I was at video games, and because my dad already had a history of doing, you know, some similar stuff. But you know, it wasn't really until I started making money that they were really fully supportive of it.
Yeah, it is.
Like I had to like actually be making money with it. Like they didn't understand how scalable it was. Like they had no clue until like I like proved them wrong, basically.
Yeah, bro, I'm gonna be honest though, that's one of the best feelings though. Kind of.
Oh yeah, it's always such a good feeling, like knowing like, hey, I proved my parents wrong about this career path. Like I'm making, you know, this much money. But like I don't want to make it about the money, like with my content. Like I do need to eat, I do need to pay my bills, I do need to move. We're like trying to get approved on this house, and like I'm trying to like, you know, get as much support as I can for that. But
it's just cool when like you turn your passion and what you kind of put like everything into and then like see like results, you know what I mean? Especially when people are doubting you. Like I remember showing like on a smaller scale, showing my parents like the first paycheck I made off of Fortnite, right? And they're like super surprised, which is like really awesome, but it's just like such a good feeling.
I remember telling my parents about overtime, and they were like, the entire time they were just like, maybe focusing on school and everything. And my mom was like, if your grades drop or anything, blah 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 blah. But I guess like over time they started to realize like how much, you know, effort and stuff that I put into it now. So
a little bit more lenient, right? Like a little bit more.
A little bit.
I think, yeah. It's just kind of, it's foreign to a lot of parents, just because like, you know, it's a new space. It's not necessarily like something they're very used to, so they can't really get like the greatest grasp of it. So like, just because they don't support you doesn't necessarily mean they like, you know, hate what you're doing or whatever. It's just kind of like, from a certain perspective, it's just something like that's newer to them, that like they can't really wrap their mind around sometimes until like they see results. And like that's fine. It's not like you're gonna hate your parents for it, right? But it is like a little annoying.
Actually, this question for both of you guys: if you ended up having children and they wanted to kind of fall into this, like, you know, gaming career, and that, like, let's say they want to be a streamer or something, what would be your thoughts on
that? Absolutely not. No. I wouldn't be forceful with it. I love my job. I love this career, but I am exceptionally lucky to have been able to do what I do, and there's not very many other people that will be able to do that in their lifetime or in any lifetime, unfortunately.
That's true.
Here's why. I don't want to cut you off, but I feel very strongly about this. I have sacrificed my mental health, my physical health, and my emotional health trying to make this work. And it has, if I didn't have the iron mental that I do right now, or that I've kind of developed, I would not be here. Like, a lot of people would have given up in one way or another before now. And I've spent my whole life in front of a screen. Literally, like, as soon as I got a phone, I played like Clash of Clans as well. Like, you know, I've spent my whole life in front of a screen, and I wish that I did something different, because like, there's a part of me that wishes that, right? Like, I really do wish that I like went out and lived my life and, like, you know, kind of abided by a little bit more of a normal schedule, and I didn't, you know, put myself in the position to get, you know, absolutely fucked by Twitch for a month because my tax info got stuck in their system and I couldn't get paid. You know, like, I'm my own boss, so this isn't, you know, it's like an entrepreneur kind of thing. And it's also, there's just nothing about content creation that's healthy. I'll be real with you. There's like almost nothing about it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I agree with that.
You're sitting in front of the screen, your posture's bad by default, you're not drinking, you're not getting up and exercising, you're not going to the bathroom, you got blue light like pouring into your eyes all the time, you know, whatever. I mean, I still love what I do.
It's like,
the hours are unreal.
It's not like a 9 to 5. There's no content creator that puts in under 12 probably a day.
Unless they're like really successful, unless they kind of can just like
it's a
log on.
That's like the 0.1%. But like, even people like Pokemon, to be honest, because she has like, I think like 3 YouTube channels basically, and like, even though that she's not streaming like every single day, she's like posting a YouTube video, posting TikToks, Like,
There's so
obviously
much that
she
goes
has
on
like
behind
20
the
people
scenes.
behind her management team, but it's like, if you're doing all this alone, it's like, it's
If
a
you're doing it
lot.
alone, then it sucks. And I'm glad that
Yeah.
I have other people that I can outsource stuff to.
Right.
Because like, it just, I couldn't do it by myself. I'm about
It's
to
hard.
hire, or I'm about to like, get a TikTok manager on the case, and
Okay.
and then I'm gonna get a guy to manage my Instagram, and then I've got, Rain to help me with YouTube, and
Right.
I'm still want to be involved with what I'm doing. I still want to
Yeah.
be like,
Mhm.
do but like I need help. Otherwise, I just can't do it. On top of streaming,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like my whole perspective on it is like most people, like if they're like working more, like let's say more so like a normal job, right? Like they go to like a place of work, like office or labor or whatever it is, but then they come home. Usually, especially like a younger demographic, they're coming home and like spending their free time, and like they're like what they're doing to relax is online. It's their online presence, right? Whether that be playing video games, whether it be watching YouTube, all that stuff. Like that's what they're doing for relaxing. But when you're the kind of like the provider for that, kind of like the ones like providing content and all that, you have a constant online presence, right? And so like you're not doing as much to kind of like relax, like, you know what I mean, like to a certain
This
extent
was
you
my,
are.
yeah, turning a hobby into a job is like the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's so hard. Like I've had to learn how to like regulate myself, and I'm still learning. Yo, wait, hold on. Someone just gifted me 12 subs offline.
Bro, no shot.
Go.
Llama. Dude, this
is
guy
hilarious.
actually gifted me 12. He gifted me another 5. What's going on?
Fuck?
I'm not even streaming. I'm literally offline right now.
That is
He
so
literally
funny,
just
bro.
gifted
What?
me 17 subs just out of nowhere. I have to
is the
DM this
upside.
guy.
I'm gonna go.
This is the upside. See, there we go.
Make
I'm,
money when you're not doing anything. It's amazing.
like that's passive income right there. Holy.
Put some oils in
I
the
was
chat.
going. Wait, what?
I'm just joking. Put the oil.
Dude, what the fuck? That's crazy.
I was gonna say about like the content creation scene in general. Fortnite kind of made me realize this very quickly. A lot of people do the same stuff over and over, and like, yeah, you'll get views, like you'll like get somewhere with it, but like you will definitely die off unless if you like just
Yeah,
have that
for
like
sure.
you brought up iron, like Hollow, the iron like mentitude basically to keep on going, because for Fortnite, like it kind of happens in all games basically, because
For sure.
not every single game is pumping out like new content all the time. Like for example, Fortnite had new content every 2 weeks, so Fortnite creators are basically making something every single week basically. But in games for like Apex and Valorant, it's all the same type of videos basically. There's
for the
not
most part, yeah. I mean,
there's not a you can go ahead, sir.
there's different styles of videos. I think they're very like from like a broader like if you like just look at a game, right, and look at the videos, they're all gonna look the same, unless you like kind of peer in. It's like almost like oh man,
Unless you actually play the game, then all the content
yeah,
does
unless
look
you-
pretty similar.
yeah, like if from an outsider's perspective and all that, you have to get pretty into that niche to like kind of like explore and see what like the differences are in between content. Like say like you take an XQC video and compare it to a TENS video, those are two separate like types of videos,
Yeah.
right? But like from an outsider's perspective, I could definitely completely like, agree with that.
I was gonna bring up what kind of separates like, you know, all these videos looking the same is like people's personality and like, you know, their community basically. And that's
yeah.
like kind of the luck aspect of content creation, or there's a lot of luck in like basically everything. There's a luck of like will your stuff do well, but there's also the luck of like, you know, will people like your general personality and like your community, you know, because yeah, obviously like if you grind it out over time, you'll eventually get there, but
sometimes is it even worth it though? You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
the amount of time and hours you're putting into, whereas if you could be investing that into something else that might be even like less like harder on your mental, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like how far are you willing to go? And there's definitely like there's a lot of skill that goes into this, but like it's like you can have like an insane clip, but then it just doesn't hit the algorithm, and it's like, well, great, okay, well now I just gotta kind of rework and like keep on doing that until something hits, and then you can kind of like start building off that. I think like I mean, for me personally, and like from an just like a consumer's perspective, I think like the main goal for content creation is kind of start doing something unique, build like a community and stuff, and then you have that community stick with you for not just the game you play, but like who you are as like you know what I mean. So like you don't have to worry about switching games or switching the type of content, because people are like eventually watching you for you and not just for that video game that you are playing. Because there's not a lot of stability when you're just focused on one game, because like people don't really talk about it a lot, but like I mean like Hollow's got an example here with just Twitch not paying him because they can, you know what I mean, because like oh whatever tax, like that happens and it's out of your control completely as like an online creator. Like you can't like be like, no, I need this now. Like you're like you're not necessarily the boss, you know what I mean, like you're obviously like dictating what you're doing, but like payment isn't on you. Like at like the end of the day, if YouTube doesn't pay you, YouTube doesn't pay you. It's very like a shaky road to go on.
Yeah, because there are a lot of YouTubers who make really great content, but they get fucked by DMCA and community guidelines.
Yeah.
And they just like don't make any money from like all of their like hours and hours of editing and like pre-planning for the videos. And that's what kind of sucks seeing. But
it's crazy. Yeah, there's people who like channels, like entire channels are just demonetized, and their only like source of income is like what they're getting like outsourced from like what their viewers are like putting in afterwards, like whether it be like Patreon or like merchandise, you know what I mean? Like that's like their only form besides like sponsors of like the cast they're receiving.
I think sponsors do play a big
oh yeah
role.
for sure.
I know that it's different with everybody depending on like your channel size and whatnot. I don't know if you like would want to like go a little bit in depth about it, but
no pressure.
Yeah,
I mean, like, you know, most of my income comes from Twitch right now, but I'm working on diversifying it. You know, I'm trying to like
you've been branching out a lot with like YouTube recently. I've seen you on my TikTok feed and stuff, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of
yeah,
like,
I'm trying my best to like, you know, make sure that I'm not like, you know, I'll try my best to make sure that I'm not like fucking myself in the long run with like my revenue, you know. Like I got YouTube channel memberships now. I get more of a cut from those than I do on Twitch, but most people are going to be supporting me on Twitch because that's where I make the majority of my content.
Yeah.
You know, obviously have sponsorship money from you know, other like it just I mean you'll see, like I'm not gonna ever like talk about really how much.
Of course.
But you know, I do make a good living off of this. Like I've worked really hard for it. But you know, I like most of my money does come from just like Twitch revenue, and I do regret that, because it's like I wish that I would have like good YouTube ad revenue. Like you know, YouTube is definitely the way to go. People who make YouTube content are very, 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 very successful. Like at least the people that get views and the people that have like all of their stuff optimized, it is 100% the wave.
Yeah.
Speaking of YouTube, do you think people who I guess like wanted to start out on like content creation, do you think they should start streaming on YouTube now, since so many people are like,
nah, it's still like, I don't know, if you want it, like streaming in of itself is just not a good form of content creation. It's very active. Like you really just want to be making YouTube videos, and if you do want to stream, if you have a passion for it, then YouTube's definitely the way. But focus on building an audience that that will actually watch you first, you know.
Yeah.
Like rather than, you know, just focus, because people just stream all the time and it ruins them.
I cannot watch the whole stream. I can't. I can watch a YouTube video.
I do it very rarely. Very rarely. I like to pop in, support people, but like there's, especially like I mean like obviously everybody's schedules are different too, so you're not gonna be seeing all your creators like all the time. But like it's kind of hard to stick around, because like usually, I mean, streams go on for a while, you know what I mean? Like when you have dedicated streamers that like they're like, this is kind of like what they're doing for a living and stuff, like it's not like just a short like 1 to 2 hour stream, opposed to like you know, like it's usually 4 hours, like I'd say is the average. I'm not like too sure on that, but like compared to like the commitment to full watching that to like opposed to like a YouTube 10-minute video, you know what I mean? Like it's way different.
Damn, we covered a lot, no cap. We
was
went a lot more in depth than I thought. But that's gonna wrap it up for the first episode of the Retake. I guess first, honestly, because we tried. Okay, fun fact: we tried to do this. Me and Shark tried to do this by ourselves like 2 times, and it failed
long
miserably.
time ago. Did not work out. Weird.
But this is this is like honestly the best attempt. I'm not gonna cap.
The revamp, the revival.
Yeah. So let us know which I guess fuck. God damn it. Let us know which person or streamer player you want us to get on the podcast next. If you're not already following us on all socials, it's Retake Control, RTK CTRL on everything. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
All right. I mean, we probably should have been like, oh yeah, you know, Hollow stuff can also be linked in the description if you're interested in him. But
I have got enough clout. You're chilling.
we'll obviously have your links in the below. No free clout. No, free.
You gotta pay for that, Mr. Hollow. You think that was free? Yeah. Who do you think you are?